the wedding seating chart with my name in the wrong seat. The first wrong thing was the ink. Seating charts should be black or a safe blue, but this one had been lettered in a precise, almost insolent vermilion, as if the names wanted to be seen blushing. The second wrong thing was my name, Noah Ellis, tucked into table 12 between a florist I barely knew and a man I knew too well. Max R. The third wrong thing was the card slipped under the calligraphy, pinned discreetly to the frame with a pearl-headed tack. If you still want the truth, Terrace 940 M. I design invitations for people who are certain paper can save them from themselves. My days smell like cotton rag and warmed wax, like ink that thinks it's a negotiator. Julian, the man I share a lease and a linen closet with, curates at a contemporary art museum that believes daylight is a verb. We have been together 5 years. We keep 2 glasses by the sink because we built a rule out of water: pour before the sentence that changes a day. The wedding belonged to friends of friends, actors who made sincerity look like craft. Julian had spent the morning directing where the sun should land in photographs. I'd finished place cards before lunch and argued with a ribbon until it apologized. At 4, he kissed my neck with museum precision and missed the half-inch that gives accuracy meaning. He said the planner needed him on site through the reception. Lighting choices, donor sightings, the choreography of influence. He left in a suit that knew how to agree with itself. Now the chart stared at me as if vermilion were a moral position. The terrace doors stood open on air that had decided not to make a fuss. String lights had been instructed to be humble. Waiters rehearsed knowing where to be when someone wanted to feel seen. Guests arrived with smiles that could be placed in rooms like lilies. Max stood at the bar pretending a lemon twist was punctuation. He was taller than conscientious men should be and wore confidence the way some people wear sunscreen, an invisible layer that makes them safe from other people's weather. He saw me but didn't approach. People who do not approach are often the ones approaching hardest. We had a history of glances over crowded tables, the kind designed by committees to make appetites feel civil. He photographed installations and woke rooms up for magazines. His hands knew when to touch light. He smelled like cedar because apparently this city had only one religion. The ceremony did not embarrass anyone. Vows were said in voices that weren't auditioning. The kiss had the kindness of a completed promise. And then, as if life couldn't resist adding a coda, the terrace filled with the low ecological sound of glasses changing owners. 9:30 came with the complacency of clocks that believe themselves. I found him where the plan said to. The terrace's far corner had been engineered for confessions. A wrought iron bench, a railing that pretended to be strong, the city spread below like a rumor you could almost verify. Max paced the width of the shadow between 2 heaters and stopped when my shoes touched it. "You came," he said, as if gravity had kept a promise on his behalf. "You wrote my name into seating like a dare," I said, and resisted the urge to straighten the vermilion. "I make charts. I noticed the wrong seat." He took a step closer and the air learned our names. He lifted his hand, then paused at the inch that has become currency in rooms like this. Heat negotiated with the skin on my wrist. He did not touch me. The restraint rang like a small, indecent bell. "He thinks he's meeting me here to end it politely," he said. "He promised the planner he wouldn't ruin dessert. I thought you should have the room before they light the sparklers." "How long?" I asked, because some arithmetic insists. 8 months, he said. Rain and an elevator the night the museum opened that retrospective about darkness. A lobby decorated to sell permission. I ended it twice. He sent me a photograph of your breakfast with a complaint about my titles. I respected his paragraph against my better judgment. Waiters were aligning champagne like soldiers. Somewhere, a saxophonist convinced a standard to be a little more honest than usual. I watched Max watch my mouth, and I wondered if anyone had ever asked him to love something that didn't need his lens. "You could have texted," I said. "I wanted your answer to hear itself in decent air," he said. "Terraces are good at air." The doors behind us sighed. The planner passed with a headset and an apology that didn't know where to land. Then Julian came through with his docent face on precise, tender, a volume that strangers trust. He saw Max. He saw me. He saw the inch of air that had developed its own politics. He closed the door behind him like a man who pays attention to hinges. "Okay," he said. The word did its work without asking for a chair. "You put my name next to his," I said. "You could have kept the chart innocent." "I chose incompetence," he said. "And then cowardice. I cheated. I told myself it was weather and home is a noun that survives rain. I used your patience like a hall pass. I called spark structure. I want to stop hearing me." Max had drifted toward the railing the way decent men do when oxygen needs the room. He lifted his hand again toward my neck and stopped at the same inch. Heat remembered its lines. He lowered his hand as if returning a borrowed word. "What do you want me to do?" Julian asked. He did not reach. He has learned that reaching is a contract the wrists sign before the brain reads it. "You'll end it," I said. "You'll sleep on the couch we refuse to call a guest anything. Next week you'll tell me what this was twice. Once with your museum voice that spackles narrative, once with small words. I'll decide what my hands can hold without lying to my wrists." "I'll do that," he said, and the city declined to disagree. Max exhaled the way good microphones like cleanly, without protest. He took a narrow step so his mouth could learn where my ear lived, stopped short, and let his breath map the line instead. "Thank you for not making me a story," he said softly. "We both would have believed you." He left without letting the door audition for punctuation. Julian and I stood beside a tray of glasses trying to be brave. We didn't sit because chairs whisper that posture is a solution. The DJ tested the opening bar of something we were too old for, and someone shouted about sparklers like fire didn't have opinions. "I'm not leaving tonight," I said. "We'll take the long way home without touching. We'll wait at crosswalks because other people's knees and our better natures both deserve seconds. You'll sleep on the couch. Tomorrow you'll end it without complimenting him. Next week you'll bring me small words." He nodded. He didn't cry. I loved him for that and wanted him to anyway. He returned to the room and posed the newlyweds with a patience that didn't feel like penance yet. Inside, the seating chart had already performed two small miracles. It got people who disliked each other to share bread, and it told the truth when paper usually lies. I stood before it until vermilion stopped feeling like a threat. Then I left my name where it had been put, because not moving it felt more honest than giving the frame a fresh sin. We walked. The night remembered it was a neighborhood. At the first corner, a cyclist cut too close and Julian's palm hovered near my hip, a merciful reflex the body offers even after it's been told to behave. The heat of it had its own liturgy. I didn't lean. A man gets to choose the boring tool that keeps the lock from lying. At home, the kettle auditioned for a bigger part. He made tea and laid blankets on the couch with a care learned from years of arranging other people's light. I slept alone in a bed that had decided not to take sides. He woke early and went to the lobby that sells permission smelling like nothing, the cologne of adulthood done correctly. He came back at noon and told me he had ended it. He told me twice. The museum version was almost bearable. The small words did the work. I liked being two men, he said. One of them wasn't tired. I mistook adrenaline for architecture. I can be one person if you let me do the work. I let him. That is the part with low-ticket sales. He slept on the couch for 6 nights and learned the distance between our door and our bed like a route he didn't tell anyone about. On the 7th, he came to me with hands that remembered the lazy precision we taught each other early and almost forgot. There is an erotics that arrives as restraint, a thrill in choosing not to ruin morning. Max texted 2 days later, "Thank you for telling the truth on a terrace built for lies." I replied, "Try it in a hallway." He didn't write back, which was the second best thing he did. Work stayed exact and unimpressed by drama. I inked a suite for a small wedding that believed in sunlight and soup. I refused a client who wanted me to erase a freckle from a letterpress portrait and explained that skin is a grammar, not an error. I taught a teenager how to hold a nib so the line doesn't panic. He made a crooked M and looked at me like I had given him permission to have hands. A week later, I saw Max at an opening. He looked smaller. Maybe my anger had stopped needing him to be tall. He said hello without asking to own my afternoon. He did not smell like cedar. We stood near the exit not because we planned to leave, but because doors help rooms breathe. He left without auditioning for a moral. Here is the part that doesn't get clapped for. I wanted him. I wanted the inch, the heat, the way his restraint taught my skin to conjugate. I wanted to make a mistake I could narrate elegantly down a flight of stairs and survive. I didn't. Wanting is a sentence, not a command. Bodies vote. Ethics count. Boredom is a mercy that lets you like yourself at noon. Julian and I adjusted the frame. 2 glasses before 3 sentences. Less reach, better touch. We stopped letting the kettle decide tone. We stand at parties near places where the air can leave if it has to. He keeps his phone face down on the console table now as if he has learned that silence is not a hazard but a room. If another chart hangs my name where math should go, I will bring water. I will sit where the exit is obvious and refuse to call that cowardice. If a hand lifts toward my neck, I will let the inch exist and answer in a tense that can survive daylight. I will keep choosing verbs that keep us possible. End, stay, tell, work, touch, wait. And when I press a plate into soft paper and feel letters rise like a patient kind of promise, when ink finds its way into pronouns and stops pretending to be anything else, I will think about vermilion and the wrong seat and the terrace with decent air, and I will call that deliberate space the most difficult thing I know how to make, and the only one that still holds when the applause forgets its lines.